This is intended to be a quick video to explain Shore's ideology and why it is the ideology for you and I. Why me and you have a lot to benefit by supporting the ideology of Omoyele Shore, right? So don't take it from me. Hear it from the Aussie's mouth when he said that his ideology is a welfarist ideology, an ideology that is on the socialist side of things. And I like to simply call it a pro-people ideology. Hear for yourself.
First and foremost, ideologically, we are on the socialist side of things. So we believe that the people of Nigeria should be the beneficiary of Nigeria's resources, not a few. I'm a welfareist. I believe absolutely in the welfare of the people, first and foremost, before everything else. So even though I hate labels, because at the end of the day, labels don't do justice to character.
So the government will be very involved in providing services, amenities.
Absolutely. Social services, providing amenities.
What is your ideology?
Ideology is very welfaristic. That is, and for the welfare, total welfare of the Nigerian people.
But for me, socialism is the right way to go.
Really?
Yes.
Speak to us about the AAC.
Well, the AAC is a radically different political party. We are the only party that has taken that direction of a socialist bent.
So now that you've heard this ideology, let's forget about the big words, the socialists, the welfareists, the pro people, right? Let's explain what it really means using just three real life examples. So one is subsidy, and I'm going to explain a welfarist ideology on one hand and capitalism or capitalist ideology on the other hand, because capitalist ideology will represent what Tinubu stands for. Though Tinubu is an aggressive, right, predatory capitalist, but we'll just explain it from the two ends. So what is ideology? Ideology is these are principles, policies, beliefs. I'm talking about political ideology now, right? That guides political decision, policy making, and everything concerning politics. And this is me just giving a broad definition. You can look it up if you want to get the exact definition. So now we have on one side the welfarist ideology or socialist ideology, but let's just call it welfarist for now because Sowore has adopted or adapted this socialist ideology and made it suitable for the Nigerian system, Nigerian economy, in fact, for Nigeria, for our peculiarities. So now, with regards to subsidy, let's look at how a capitalist, let's start with Tinubu, views subsidy. A capitalist, they will say a lot of money is going into subsidy. And subsidy is something that every Nigerian benefits from. But since the capitalist is only concerned about profit, and that is one of the tenets of capitalism, profit is what matters most. In fact, profit is the only thing that matters to a capitalist. Because as a capitalist, the owner of companies and things like this, you're bothered about making profit, more and more profit every year for the shareholders of these companies and these establishments. So capitalism is where a few private individuals have control of the means of production, be it land, be it our oil wells, means of production generally, and they are focused on profit making. There are other tenets like a free market system or like allowing demand and supply to control the prices of goods and services. But stick with me. Let's talk about subsidy. So the way a capitalist like Tinubu looks at subsidy, looks at it like the government is not really making profit. Even though the people are benefiting, a capitalist do not see human development as profit to the nation or as profit to themselves, right? They see it as a loss. So what does Tinubu do?
No matter how long you protest, we are going to remove subsidy.
He takes out this subsidy, the money that was supposed to go for the benefit of the people. He takes it out and shares it among his elites, the people who are at the top. These people are like the CEOs of company, the stakeholders of company. In this case, he shares it among the governors and other top personnel. So the governors get to get 4 times their usual allocation. These governors who we already know are thieves. So you take the money that the people benefit and share it among thieves. So at the end of the day, why wouldn't the governors be the campaign to APC and supporting him? This is how a capitalist thinks. It's profit for himself and his clique and his fellow elite. What the people are supposed to benefit. So any candidate who tells you that is going to remove subsidy, immediately he becomes president, or even not immediately.
Subsidy, I've said it before, is organized crime. And I cannot allow it to stay a day longer.
No matter how long you protest, though, we are going to remove subsidy.
I thought Nigerians have now come to accept my position on the issue, of subsidy removal. But I think it is inevitable that it has to happen.
Even developed countries, every country around the world has no business removing subsidy, especially in Nigeria. And if you ask where are we going to fund this, Shell just says they paid about $18 billion in taxes, right? That alone should fund subsidy. The details is up here. Anyways, now let's look at how a welfarist sees subsidy. Omoyele Sowore, it's practically one of the only two candidates ahead say they were not going to remove subsidy. The second is Adebayo of SDP, the former 2023 presidential candidate of the SDP.
Presidential candidate, the only duty I owe Nigerian people is to remind us that, you had options and you decided to go with the parties, the three parties who said they were going to cut subsidy, and 90% of the vote cast was shared by the three parties, all who were united that on day one. And I'm happy that the honorable gentleman from Labour admitted that they too said they were going to remove subsidy. And I think that PDP has been quiet, and a few of them who have been adventurous and talking about it also cannot deny the fact that they said they were going to remove it. So it's now left for the Nigerian people to understand that elections have consequences. And next time, if you are not happy, the SDP is still here, because you have 4 years now to think about whether you made the right decisions or not.
Now, listen to Sowore, how he views subsidy.
Yes.
What's your thoughts?
I'm not removing fuel subsidy.
You're not?
No.
Why not?
Because the only thing that Nigerians get from the Nigerian crude is that little subsidy. What I will remove is the subsidy that the crooks in our system gets. Those people who are importing fake fuel, importing...
But subsidy is costing a lot of money. I mean, even Kenya just removed subsidy.
The subsidy that costs a lot of money is the subsidy of the elite.
Yeah, but Kenya just removed subsidy. Are you saying even Kenya is because of the subsidy of the elite?
Have you heard that Kenya produced crude before? I'm not aware that they have crude oil in Kenya. We do.
The fact is they are removing subsidy because
they
realize
they don't produce crude oil. They don't produce.
So you're saying because we produce,
we should. You see, do you know that a certain amount of barrels of crude is allocated to refining locally every day, and regardless of whether we are refining or not, they are still selling it. And it goes into private pockets. I know you might disagree with me. But
no, I'm not here to disagree with you. I'm here for you to tell the people.
I know these people very well. But let me tell you the gimmick. The gimmick is to make people believe that subsidy is eating up the country. But do you know that kerosene is not subsidized?
Exactly.
Yes. So why are we not benefiting from it? Diesel is not subsidized. Why are we not benefiting from it? Diesel is at 1,000 naira, sometimes 5.
Because the majority of people do not use diesel. The masses
Who
are
told
not.
you?
But the masses are not dependent on diesel.
No.
They are
The
dependent
masses
on kerosene and petrol.
No, the masses are dependent on diesel. Most generators that are running even your office here.
Yeah, but that's the offices.
No.
Those are private sector.
No.
Diesel is not.
Diesel is massive. You can quote me. It's massively consumed in Nigeria. There are even vehicles.
No, I'm not saying it's not massively consumed.
Yes.
I'm saying to you.
So the point I'm making is that.
Not
what about kerosene? What about kerosene?
Yes, kerosene is and it's liberalized, right?
Yes. Who is subsidizing kerosene? Nobody.
Yeah.
It's not removed from subsidy.
Yeah.
So, and the game they play on us all the time is that the moment we remove the subsidy, we will put it aside for social welfare affairs. So, where about the ones you got from diesel, from kerosene, from gas, from jet A1 fuel? Why is it that those benefits are not accruing to the people?
Okay.
So it's only that of petrol, because it's a game. It's a game. And we are out to end the game because we know the trick. We know them inside out.
My gosh.
So now you've heard from Sowore himself. I'm also sure you saw the video of other candidates saying capitalistic candidates, especially the predatory capitalist candidates, saying how they're going to remove subsidy. But Sowore, being a socialist, welfareist, having a pro-people ideology, he always puts the people first and not a cabal and not a particular group of elite and not a group of private individual, right? So him putting the people first is looking at subsidy as a means of maybe investing, but developing the people, the human resources. That is what comes first to a welfareist, is the people who come first, right? So he's saying, I'm not going to remove subsidy. Rather, I'm going to remove the corruption in subsidy because the corruption benefits only a few private individuals. So I'm going to remove that so the people can continue enjoying subsidy, right? So this is how a socialist or a welfareist, let's just stick to welfareist for now, how a welfareist looks at subsidy as against how a capitalist or a predatory capitalist like Tinubu views subsidy. Let's look at the second example. Let's talk about budget, right? Recently on a video in an interview on Channels TV, Sowore said how he's going to come about his budget when he becomes Nigeria's president. Now, let's look at the typical way capitalists or others who do not have an ideology, because most parties in Nigeria, almost all parties in Nigeria lack an ideology, how they come about their budget, right? You see these House of Rep members or state governors and all that, they draw up a budget, and for it to be approved by this the House of Assembly or the Senate, they would pad up the budget. They would be giving contracts. Their own companies they have affiliation with would be giving contracts to execute this budget. That's how they make more money. And so they inflate and pad up the budget. So the budget actually serves the interest of just a few individuals. That is a capitalist way of thinking. A few private individuals thinking of how to make profit. It's only their interest that matters. Now, listen to how Sowore said he's going to make his budget. You'll be mind blown.
How should we be budgeting differently? It's something people don't really talk about. Talk to us about it, sir.
Well, I actually was in Brazil in 2002 to attend the World Social Forum. And I found the Brazilian model, that was when Lula was around for the first time, to be exciting and, different and very, very creative. And every budgeting that they did in Brazil, particularly in the south where we were in Porto Alegre at that time, was done first at the community level. That is to say, before the budget is drawn at all, they go to the grassroots. They say, what do you need? As opposed to what do we need to give you? And then they'll tell them what they need. And we need schools in some places, we need bridges. And it is a community that will first and foremost cost what they need and what they want and what it will cost. And then they pass it at that level up to the top, first to the local government and the state, and operationally to the federal government. And then when the budget comes back, they will find out that the budgets are realistic and they are not padded, because the biggest problem with the Nigerian budget is padding. The people who actually make the most amount of money, the corruption involved in budgeting have not been spoken about in Nigeria. There's a cabal that's involved, in the parliament and the executive sector in preparing budgets. They are the most powerful people, almost some of the most powerful people in this country. But we've never talked about them before. And these guys just make up budgets and then they send it to the National Assembly. It allows the National Assembly to negotiate their own cut of it. There are two ways the National Assembly is involved in padding budgets. One is that everybody that's presented a budget is supposed to appear before them. So you have to bribe them before you can even pass your budget. And this includes the University Vice Chancellor. And the second aspect is that they then include what they call constituency projects. It is not the job of the National Assembly to be running constituency projects. They can suggest to the executive branch what they want to be done for their constituents, but it's not up to them to then become contractors who then implement these constituency projects. And that is why you have over ₦1 trillion added into the Nigerian budget, and I can guarantee you that those constituency projects never get executed. So to your question, mine will be a democratization of the budgeting system where we go to the grassroots, ask people what they need at the grassroots levels, local governments, states already have, and then we come to the federal and we put all this together with the executive branch budgeting office and say this is what Nigerian people need for this year and this is what it's going to cost. And we have an open and transparent process in which every dime we're spending is accounted for and can be seen by the people. If I'm building a bridge, I want people to know with a signboard in front of the bridge, the cost of the bridge, who is constructing it, what is the CAC number of that company, and where it is located. For everybody to see that transfer, there must also be one on the website that says this is how far we've gone, this is where it is, and if there's any stoppage, we want the citizens to have an input into monitoring these projects for you. So that's how budgeting should be, and that's how the making of budget should be, and that's my own proposal for it, that it should start from the grassroots, and this has worked very well for the Brazilian people, to the point that it was so great that Lula had to be returned to office because he did so well in those areas. So, and you cannot say today that the Brazilian economy is not a good economy, it's not a great one. But over here, the biggest problem we have is the opacity of our budgeting system. Let me tell you that just as we are here today, most state governments, you can't find their budget anywhere. In 2025, where we are all digital citizens, you can't find the budget of most state governments anywhere to assess how the budget was made and how they are implementing it. They hide it. It's some of the biggest, biggest top secrets in Nigeria.
And, you know, that just says a lot, really. Just to refer to your previous statement, you have reignited that debate, the monetarism debate. Is it Paul Volcker who's responsible for monetary policy, or Milton Friedman? It's been said that it was Milton Friedman, monetarism. That's the Nobel Prize-winning economist who wrote about it extensively before Paul Volcker then used it as a Reserve Bank head to bring down inflation.
Well,
but that's just by
Paul Volcker was
academic.
the one who used it. That's why I mentioned Carter as well.
We should move this to the school where we can have a proper debate. But it's very interesting the way you brought it up, because it just brings to life.
I'm a teacher as well,
exactly.
So I taught for 8 years in the U.S., 2 U.S. universities, so I understand.
That's brilliant. And it's
So on the video, Sowore says that when he went to Brazil in 2002, right, he saw the way Lula, I think Lula da Silva, made the budget, right? For the budget to be made, they go down to the community level, local government level, even the ward level, to ask the people what they need, what they want. And this is now factored into the budget. So it's a budget not of what the rulers want for the people, but what the people want their leaders to do. And Sowore Omoyele is a leader. So imagine going to the people and asking them, what do you want? People are not going to say they want things that are not going to benefit from. They want things like shoemaker box to become shoemakers, or a single street light that cost almost a billion naira, that we see in budgets recently. I'll drop the details of that, right? They're going to say, oh, our road is not good, our schools are not standard, right? We don't have clean drinking water, we do not have light. These are the things they are going to want, of course. But if the people even say, oh, we want a spaceship in our community, it's what the people want. If it can be afforded, right, is the people's will that will prevail. And that's what democracy is all about. So imagine a budget where the needs and wants of the people, especially the needs, are factored into the budget. And Sowore also went further to say that there will be transparency. In fact, on a construction site, you see the company that the contract was awarded to, that is in charge of that construction, the time frame, the amount. That's very important. The amount that is given to the company that is being paid for that contract. And you can go online on the government website and see these details. And there will be photographic evidence, video evidence of the progress of the contract. And also, individuals in the community can also volunteer to monitor the progress and update the government on the progress of this contract. Now, this is how a pro-people welfarist ideology operates. It puts the interests of the people first, the needs of the people first, the decision opinions of the people, because that's what democracy is: a government by the people, for the people, of the people. You understand? So this is just a second example of how an ideology can influence something as budget making. It applies to every other aspect of politics. Now let's check the third example. it's going to be about coalition. So these days, you just see online and you hear a lot of so-called political leaders coming together to form coalition. They form coalition with every Tom, Dick, and Harry because the purpose of the coalition is a power grab to take power from APC. Now, here's where ideology comes. A man with a welfarist ideology that is pro-people, that everything he does is for the benefit of the people, would not go into a coalition with somebody who is anti-people. And that is why somebody who's welfarist should not be going into coalition with somebody who is a predatory capitalist, somebody who has made sure that the people suffer, whose hands has caused tears, sorrow, and blood. So you won't see somebody like an Omoyele Sowore going into a coalition with Atiku, El-Rufai, Malami, or even Peter Obi, because these guys are capitalists. His policies is going to this side, their policies are going the opposite direction. So let's assume even if they form a coalition and they win, if their policies are implemented, Sowore has lost because his own policies are pro-people, their policies are anti-people, pro-establishment. You understand? So because of his ideology, Sowore is unable to go into a coalition with these sets of individuals.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much. You didn't add that
Wow.
I'm also a fisherman.
Yes. You can always add that.
Yes.
At least they've heard you now.
Yes.
Good to have you here.
Thank you.
Yeah, you once said that you don't want to join, you don't want to pollute your ideology by joining the coalition or third force. What is your ideology?
Ideology is very welfaristic. That is, I'm for the welfare, total welfare of the Nigerian people. Because for 58 years, they borrow ideology from other people. There was a time we were trying to mix socialism with communism. Then we went in the direction of capitalism. But we never practiced any of those things because we don't have people who can operate in the interest of our people.
Okay.
So to now go and join coalition when I already have a coalition of the oppressed in our political party, the coalition of the unemployed, coalition of the abandoned, the coalition of people who have been cheated. There's no need searching for other coalition of people who may not share the core beliefs of our own political party and movement. That was what made me say that.
Okay.
Ideology makes Omoyele Sowore, the welfarist ideology makes Omoyele Sowore consistent to make sure that every decision he takes, including coalition, is geared to favor the people. So even if it furthers his own personal interest, so long as it's not pro-people, he's not going to go into that coalition. In 2019, right, during the governorship election in Rivers State, Amishi, because the APC, via a court order, could not field a candidate in Rivers State, Amishi tried to use the AAC to further his cause. So he wanted to form an alliance with the African National Congress governorship candidate. And even before the result was announced, the AAC released a statement. Sowore came on BBC, and I'll play that video, and said that even if this coalition is going to favor us and we're going to get a governorship candidate in the AAC, so long as the people are not going to benefit from the coalition, that he does not or is not in support with the coalition. And he denounced the coalition and distanced himself from Amishi, saying that he cannot go into a coalition, even if it's going to favor him, when it's not going to favor the people. And the statement was released. And even the governorship candidate, I think it was Sasha.
See, they happen inside Rivers State. Say APC being back AAC. You did in support of this, backing from the onset.
We don't talk on the party don't issue statement. We don't interview the president. The governorship candidate for there. We know the back. We don't know how they go do their thing. We know they're part of them. We don't tell everybody, say, we know please support something where they against this thing where we stand for. The reason why I come out as presidential candidate because I say APC, PDP, and bad two parties. I will come go join APC for governorship candidate. It just be like, say, from one place you join light, another place you go join darkness. How that one go look? And we don't talk them. Say we no fit join them. We no get anything in common with APC. We no get anything in common with Amici. We know they no call us for meeting. Now this governorship candidate himself, he talk am for pidgin English service. Say we no get hard sell. So we no fit be part of waiting no good. And we
now their own faction. You feel say now a different faction. We just say
we don't get past our party. The only thing we say they just say at the state level. They fit do wetin they like. And our people, our party, they look into wetin we fit do about them. The thing, we believe, say, we feel win on merit as AAC. And then talk even Amechi talk and say, now AAC be the only party where you see, we get the kind of credibility where they need. So they just want to take our credibility right, enter government house. And you know, as they be now, the next day they go just touch the governorship candidate, don't they can't go APC.
Well, I mean, now what will be your current reaction to what will happen inside Rivers?
For Rivers.
And what will happen inside Rivers? You know, now people now, everybody they on rest. INEC don't suspend the results. How you see the matter as it be now? Because a lot of people now they wonder, say, what will be the next step for what will happen inside Rivers?
Our position they're very clear. So we know we support anything we go deny people their right to freely vote. If they carry soldier or they carry police or they snatch ballot box, we know free participate. Even if you go benefit us, we no go participate for any stolen mandate anywhere. We believe that our party feel win, our candidate feel win on merit. So you don't need to join bad gang for him to win. And the thing we will talk with that. And as INEC don't decide now, we hope to when INEC restates the process, they will make it free and fair. So that AAC go feel win on merit. But as things be now, we dey investigate internally ourselves to see waiting comic our guys go rogue.
Now, to finalize this video, to drive my point home, it's for us to understand that everything we're asking for as welfarists or as socialists, they are rational, they are reasonable. We're not saying that those in the private sector will not get to operate. No, that is not what welfarism is about. What we're saying is that the private sector will operate. If you have businesses, you will grow your businesses as much as possible. In fact, you will flourish under a welfarist system. But what will not be allowed is for a few private individuals to take advantage of Nigerians, to take advantage of the common man, to pay a below living wage. And that's why you see welfareists like Sowore talking about a living wage as against a meager minimum wage, because he's always looking out for the interest of the people. As far back as 2019, he was proposing 100,000 minimum or living wage. In fact, the company, Civic Media Lab, the establishment that he set up in 2017, it was paying the amount he was proposing as minimum wage, 100,000, to the least worker there. You understand?
So when I came here, this first day I arrived, they came after me. And I made a vow that it was time to bring the idea home. It didn't matter. There are over 30 people working here in this place. They seized all the money I brought, $200,000. Saraki went and got a judgment in Lauren and seized the money. I vowed to myself that would not kill the idea, because the 30 people that are working here or more have dependents. In fact, the idea of a minimum wage that I proposed started from here. Right, that I'm not going to work here and pay anybody who's working here less than an amount of money that I think Nigerian workers deserve. So without even the money that originally came as seed money, we're here, struggling to pay that amount. They seized all my money, but I said, look, this idea must become dominant. I'm giving you that background not because of analogy, it's because experience is also real. And when nations want to change, they don't look for people to drop from the sky. They look for people who have local experience. They look for people who have capacity. They look for people who understand history. They look for people who...
Sowore's action, you understand, reflects his ideology. Anyway, moving forward. So, we are not saying that there won't be private sector. Private individuals will be allowed to own businesses, and you would even flourish.
Government is always the one providing services and amenities, and the private sector, as they call them, would come and pounce on government services, they pounce on government properties, they're sold to them, and then they take credit for it all the time. I'm not against private entrepreneurial engagement within a society, but what I'm against is the rent-seeking system, where people take advantage of what should belong to everybody, take it for themselves, and then claim credit for it. And we've seen that happen. That level of abuse is not in any way something that can be described as success or entrepreneurial spirit. I know what it means to be an entrepreneur. I started a website with one laptop, and in 12 years it became probably one of the most competitive media company on the continent of Africa and the world, well recognized for it. So it's different from me sitting here and being willed to an NTA property. And then I claim that I'm an entrepreneur after that. You know, it's just unconscionable.
Was capitalists or as a socialist?
No, I don't see myself as a capitalist.
Why?
I suck at it.
Really?
If I was a capitalist, I would have made a lot of money. What I founded, Sahara Reporters would have gone straight for making money.
Yeah.
And I would probably own an island and be living on it by now.
Yeah.
But for me, socialism is the right way to go.
Really?
Yes. And it is to the extent that I believe in the dynamism of it. I am like in favor of the social democrats of the Nordic states, for instance, Norway, Denmark, and the rest of them.
Scandinavian,
who are practicing,
yeah.
Socialism.
Yeah.
They practice socialism. Everything in their country belongs to their people.
Mm.
The leaders keep it and hold it for the people. There is free education in those countries.
Yeah.
Free healthcare. Even their prisons are better than our houses.
Of course.
Here.
Yeah. Yes.
So that Nordic type of socialism where you sharply invest in your people to the extent that they can compete with capitalist states. I also have...
Because if the government is paying 250,000 as an example, as minimum or as living wage rather, the private individual, the private sector will be forced to also do the same, right? And we're also saying that back in the days, we lived in communalism. We had an ideology that is communalistic. So the entire community, everybody owns land, which is the means of production then, right? So we collectively owned things. And when you get to a certain age, you are given a land, the entire community comes together to help you build that house and they move on to the next person and we work together in unison. So you don't find people who do not have food, who do not have clothes, who do not have houses, unlike you find now. But what then happened was that the Europeans, they came in, they invaded, they enslaved us. So these are our ideology, these are our political system, economic system was not allowed to flourish and develop, right, to a modern day system. Otherwise, we would have developed our communalism to a way that suits this our population and current world. But that aside, we found ourselves in a system where we've said, okay, let's give our collective resources to the government. The government owns land. They have control of all our mine, oil wells, and all our resources, the gold, the diamonds, everything on the surface of the earth and below the earth. So since the government, we've given them control of this, it is only fair that we demand from them to have our best interests at heart, to use these resources we've handed over to them to develop us. So that the money that is gotten from our collective resources is not used for the benefit of a few. A few individuals should not be owning oil wells. If you give a goat an oil well, it will become a billionaire. So our oil wells should not be used for the benefit of a few persons. Rather, this money should be invested in the people, and that's why it's called a pro-people ideology. So critical sectors like the health sector, education sector, right, even the transportation sector, the energy sector, and that's why subsidy in the energy sector is important. These sectors should not be privatized. Rather, government should have business in business, especially in this sector. There should be free quality education because we have the resources to fund it. You understand? So when government invest in these sectors and many other sectors, right? The government is developing its people as against the capitalist system where they reduce the value of our naira to bring in their foreign investor friends so they can bring in their $1 million. I'm not saying $1 million is small, but they bring in their $1 million, right? It now looks like a big money because our currency has been devalued. And when they come in, they invest $1 million, they mine our resources, they take these resources outside, they make 10 to $100 million. That is called investment. They invest $1 million and they take in tens and hundreds of millions of dollars. And who suffers? Us. The money is not even left in our economy, right? It's our collective resources. Even telecommunication companies like MTN and what have you, and even these banks that continue debiting us and they keep raking in profit, more and more profit every year at our expense, is what predatory capitalist system looks like. And they give us shitty networks, right? And they give us shitty services. as against development, where the government says that rather than a single individual building a refinery and making billions of dollars, the government should have working refineries. The government should have working schools that provide quality, free, and accessible education. This is not too little to ask. And every government knows, every reasonable government knows that no country can develop without the government investing in its people, not for profit, but to develop the people. And that's the difference between development and investment.
Some of them are not even carrying out what they have been licensed to do. We cannot continue to pamper those ones. We take back their licenses. If you are not distributing, you don't sit down on a license and refuse to carry out the service for which the license is met. That is where the regulation was supposed to have. That was why I discussed the regulation earlier. If these license owners had been the ones who are generating their electricity, they would have been eager to distribute it. But because it doesn't belong to them, and they got it
They
at
buy
on,
it.
huh?
They buy it.
They banned.
They buy it from the
They
generation.
didn't buy anything. These guys they dashed it to them. Some of them are going to jail now. No, it's true. You know, some of them have been arrested for how they duped banks to buy these things. We gave them subventions. This country gave them trillions, almost $1 trillion naira subventions after we gave them the power sector generating companies at under the table, under market value prices. I have been involved in investigating these things. I'm just telling you that probably that's the reason why they will sit up. I'm not going to do any body language governance. I'll be there
So you're
asking
going to
questions.
go in there and basically disrupt everything. That's what I'm hearing.
Why won't you disrupt criminality? That's the job of the executive section. It's the job of president. If there are criminals taking advantage of your people, do you just sit down there and say because?
Final question.
So I hope with this, my boring talk, I've been able to make some of us understand what the welfarist, the pro-people, the Sowore ideology looks like. Because once you understand this, you will know that whatever you do to promote Sowore, you're not actually doing it to promote him, but the ideology. And ultimately, you are doing it for yourself. Thank you very much. See you in the next video.